Part 1: Nitric Oxide and the Origins of Disease. Nitric oxide, miracle, molecule, or aging accelerant. A theory that is wrong is considered preferable to admitting our ignorance. Elliot Valenstein, Ph.D. Our story on methylene blue begins in a place you might not expect. Looking at a molecule often hailed for its miraculous benefits. Unbeknownst to most of its advocates, it is actually a toxic component of air pollution called nitric oxide. While writing this, I am reminded of the famous 1984 film, The Karate Kid, in which the very first karate lesson Mr. Miyagi taught to his student Daniel was how to wash and wax a car. In future lessons, Daniel was taught how to sand the floor, paint fences, and catch flies with chopsticks. Not surprisingly, Daniel was confused about why he was being taught skills that seemed entirely unrelated to karate. But in time, Daniel realized that everything had a purpose. Mr. Miyagi's unique brand of martial arts taught Daniel important lessons like muscle memory, patience, focus, and precision that he would later use to become a master at his craft. Similarly, there's no way that you can fully comprehend or appreciate methylene blue without first understanding the role of nitric oxide in health and disease and how it relates to the body's metabolism. This is why I've dedicated part 1 of this book to nitric oxide and the origins of disease. Once you grasp the physiological role of nitric oxide in the body, the reason why the methylene blue dye is a shining star among medicines will become clear. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the ride. How the drug Viagra flipped nitric oxide research on its head. In the 1980s and prior, the compound nitric oxide was well understood by scientists to be a toxic free radical found in city smog. Then suddenly, according to Dr. Raymond Peat, around the year 1990, publishing activity in scientific journals began occurring in droves, claiming that nitric oxide was not only safe, but highly beneficial for an endless list of applications, including erectile function, heart function, and as a stroke preventative. In 1992, nitric oxide was proclaimed Molecule of the Year. The high volume of research and acclaim for nitric oxide around this time led to the FDA approval and launch of the drug Viagra for the treatment of erectile dysfunction in 1996. Viagra came out, and suddenly the medical publications came out finding it was the most glorious protective substance, said Pete. The pharmaceutical companies had succeeded in convincing scientists and the public at large that nitric oxide was no longer a toxic free radical but a miraculous healing substance that could improve human health in a myriad of ways, solely to market and reap enormous profits from their latest blockbuster drug. But what does Viagra have to do with nitric oxide, you might ask? Prescribed to millions of men for erectile dysfunction, Viagra acts by elevating nitric oxide levels in the body. Put simply, Viagra is a nitric oxide agonist. Such is the link between nitric oxide and the erection drug Viagra. But how could boosting nitric oxide be beneficial for the sexual health of men when it is known to decrease the fertility hormone testosterone? And if nitric oxide is so helpful for cardiovascular health, then why is the nitric oxide inhibitor Alanine beneficial in the treatment of patients with refractory cardiogenic shock? Lastly, why does lowering nitric oxide provide a striking survival benefit in lung cancer and pancreatic cancer patients? Type nitric oxide into a search engine and you'll be inundated with studies and information from scientists, doctors, and multitude of companies selling nitric oxide supplements and pro-drugs, touting NO as a miracle material with a virtually endless list of benefits. You might also notice that around 95% of the information that emerges on the first few pages of any search engine regarding nitric oxide colors it in a positive light that would make the reader think it is one of the most health-promoting substances available. But buried deep within the digital trash heap known as the internet, there exists no shortage of evidence to the contrary, which in my opinion is far more compelling than scientific. In this chapter, I'm going to make the case that nitric oxide is not the health panacea that drug company researchers and marketers of nitric oxide promoting supplements would have you believe. My position is that nitric oxide is part of the body's stress response, fundamental to the aging process and virtually all chronic degenerative diseases, including diabetes, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and dementia. If this chapter casts even a modicum of skepticism onto your preconceived notions about nitric oxide, then it has succeeded. Softening our beliefs and admitting we could be wrong is the essential first step to learning anything new and moving in the direction of truth. If the information I'm about to present conflicts with your beliefs about nitric oxide, I ask that you keep an open mind about it. If you find yourself feeling angry at any point, let me remind you that we cannot make any scientific progress when we don't allow ourselves to explore new ideas. Try the information on like you would try on a new jacket. This seems like a good place to drop a quote from one of the great philosophers from years past. It's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle. With that in mind, and in the spirit of curiosity, I present you the case against nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, a toxic free radical. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that's produced naturally by the human body and is also present in the Earth's environment in the form of industrial pollution. Chemically, nitric oxide is a colorless gas and a free radical. What's a free radical? I'm glad you asked. A free radical is any molecule that has an unpaired electron, which means that it's highly reactive with other chemicals and cellular structures inside the body. Virtually all known toxic environmental chemicals are free radicals as well, including heavy metals like lead, aluminum, or arsenic, plastic compounds like bisphenol A, ionizing and non-ionizing radiation emitted by baby monitors, internet routers, cell phones, and x-rays, as well as the litany of different deleterious chemicals found in drugstore soaps, shampoos, and deodorants, like sodium lauryl sulfate. Free radicals are basically nasty little chemicals that go around stealing electrons off other molecules in your body, and that causes damage in the body, described Dr. Emma Beckett, molecular nutritionist at the University of Newcastle in Australia. A balance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body is necessary for proper physiological function. Excessive concentrations of free radicals can overwhelm the body's ability to neutralize them and contribute to diseases like cancer, heart disease, cognitive decline, vision loss, and virtually all other disease pathologies. In 1956, after noticing that the concentration of free radical oxidants in the body gradually decreases with age, scientist Denham Harman proposed the free radical theory of aging. Harman's theory suggested that free radicals cause damage from cumulative oxidative stress, resulting in aging and death. Currently, the evidence backing up this theory is so widespread that at this point most scientists see the association as self-evident. In a 1998 review of the research on the free radical theory of aging, nitric oxide was labeled a damaging oxidant. It was said that the nitric oxide synthase, the primary enzyme that stimulates nitric oxide production, must be seen as a potential source of damaging oxidants. Also mentioned by the scientists was the fact that NO reacts with O to form peroxynitrite, itself a powerful oxidant. The opposite of oxidants like nitric oxide is antioxidants. Antioxidants are the only thing that could give up an electron to that reaction without becoming free radicals themselves. So they're halting that negative chain reaction, stated Dr. Beckett. Said differently, antioxidants selflessly donate an electron to oxidants, which prevents them from stealing an electron from healthy cells or tissues. The result is that the body is chemically stabilized. Vitamin C and vitamin E are two examples of antioxidants that can protect us against environmental chemicals, but you already knew that. One less commonly known example of an antioxidant is urea, found in urine. This is why, for thousands of years, as described by the Roman poet Ovid, women have been splashing mule urine on their face to promote more youthful skin. Think that's gross? Take a look at the ingredients list on the bottle of your face cream. If it's a quality product, it probably contains urea. To sum things up in one sentence, free radicals cause damage, and antioxidants protect against damage. As with most things, any excess can cause harm. So once again, balance is the key. Let's return to our subject of nitric oxide now. Given the fact that most people are exposed to an excess of free radicals daily in the form of environmental chemicals in food, water, air, plastics, and drugstore personal care products, does it sound like a good idea to further increase free radicals in the body by taking nitric oxide promoting drugs or supplements like Viagra or L-arginine? Nitric oxide for bodybuilding. For decades, the bodybuilding world has been promoting nitric oxide for its ability to dilate or relax constricted blood vessels, claiming an increase in nutrient and oxygen delivery means you'll be able to exercise for longer, no matter what your sport is, wrote Casey Walker on his blog My Protein. An article on bodybuilding.com offers 6 vein-popping reasons to use nitric oxide supplements, including 1. Increased recovery rates, 2. Reduce fatigue levels during higher rep protocols, 3. Enhance endurance performance, 4. Increase availability of energy, 5. Increased glucose use, 6. Increased muscle pump. All these benefits sound fantastic, but let me remind you that we're talking about a toxic air pollutant here. How could a toxic free radical contained within the thick smog spewed from the tailpipe of a gas-guzzling SUV be beneficial for muscle performance and recovery? The fact that increased muscle pump is part of that list alone should be enough to sound the alarm as to whether or not it's physiologically beneficial. The feeling of inflamed and tight muscles, for which Arnold Schwarzenegger has coined the term the pump, is caused by increased lactic acid production by cells. Elevating lactic acid levels is the exact opposite of what we want for both muscle performance and good health in general. Lactic acid is well known to suppress the immune system, trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol, reduce carbon dioxide production, causing blood vessels to constrict, and dominantly promotes cancer growth and metastasis. I'll discuss nitric oxide's vasodilatory effect shortly, but first I'd like to shine some light on the impact of misconceptions about nitric oxide on the bodybuilding world. As a result of rigid science by pharmaceutical companies pushing an erection drug through the FDA approval process, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of different allegedly performance-enhancing bodybuilding supplements on the market containing the amino acid arginine. Consuming more arginine, whether in the form of food or supplements, like pure arginine powder or high arginine super bead supplements, will provide the base material from which nitric oxide is synthesized, increasing the amount of nitric oxide produced by your body. Many bodybuilders consume these products believing they're doing themselves a favor and improving their workouts, but unfortunately, they've fallen for a dangerous myth. Anybody who thinks NO is good for exercise, muscle performance, or sexual function should look at the following study from 2015, which shows that elevated nitric oxide powerfully inhibits testosterone. In the experiment, scientists looked at the effects of nicotine on testosterone levels in male rats. One group of rats received nicotine and the other received nicotine and a nitric oxide inhibitor called L-name. After 30 days of administration, the rats were assessed and their testosterone levels measured. The study showed that testosterone was significantly decreased in the group that received the nicotine alone, but in the group that received nicotine as well as the nitric oxide inhibitor, testosterone levels were significantly higher. In other words, elevated nitric oxide stimulated by the nicotine decreased testosterone levels. By taking a nitric oxide inhibitor in addition to the nicotine, testosterone levels were maintained. Another experiment looking specifically at the effects of nitric oxide on steroidogenesis came to a similar conclusion. Therefore, if you want your body to produce sufficient testosterone, whether for bodybuilding or general health, it's important that you follow these strategies. Eat nitrate-free meat. Eat vegetables not heavily fertilized with nitrogen. Avoid bodybuilding supplements that include nitric oxide precursors like arginine and erection drugs. Another nitric oxide precursor that's heavily promoted in the bodybuilding world is the amino acid citrulline. Once ingested, citrulline is sent to the kidneys where it is converted into the NO precursor arginine, which will then be used to synthesize more NO. And therefore, taking citrulline supplements can cause the same biological calamity as arginine or Viagra by stimulating the production of additional NO. Viagra. How hard is the evidence? Viagra is a drug used to induce erections in men having trouble getting hard. This makes for a fun and exciting conversation topic because erections lead to sex, and sex leads to orgasms, and who doesn't love a good orgasm? It is arguably the most pleasurable of all human experiences, at least physically. Taking the drug Viagra is all fun and games, but is worth losing your life over? Warning to men, erection drugs just might kill you is the title of an article by American author and health journalist Michael Castleman, exposing the potential dangers of Viagra as well as two other nitric oxide promoting erection drugs on the market, Cialis and Levitra, Castleman writes. The FDA, the nation's drug safety watchdog, approved the three main erection drugs as safe, but are they? Not quite. According to a recent study of erection medication side effects during the decade from 1998 through 2007, Viagra has been implicated in at least 1,824 deaths, mostly from heart attacks. Cialis has been linked to 236 deaths, and Levitra to 121. In addition, the three medications appear to have caused or significantly contributed to at least 2,500 non-fatal heart attacks and other potentially serious heart problems, and more than 25,000 other potentially serious side effects, among them mini strokes, vision loss, and hearing loss. Castleman goes on to expose what he calls the dirty little secret of safety studies presented to the FDA, which is that participant pools of men number just a few thousand. If a drug kills, say, one person in 150,000, that side effect is unlikely to show up during pre-approval trials. The result is that when a drug like Viagra becomes a big seller and is used by millions of men, many of them will drop dead from it. Soon after Viagra's release in 1998, bodies began dropping like flies. Many of the men who died were getting a double dose of NO by taking Viagra at the same time they were taking the nitrate medication nitroglycerin. We know that nitrates are converted to nitric oxide once inside the body, so the massive spike in phenols that resulted from the co-administration of these two drugs together is a testament to how physiologically devastating nitric oxide can be.